familiar with the ill-famed black polythene bag? हर महीने लड़कियां शर्माती हैं, छुपाती हैं एक ऐसी चीज जो शायद ही किसी छुपी हुई है. Every woman goes through it, every man knows about it. Still, the shame is such that we don't even call it by its name. We call it chumming, down hona, mushkil din, and God knows what else. Hence, today on HerZindagi Dialogue, hashtag She Speaks, we are discussing menstruation and the taboos that go with it like its conjoined twin. I am Samriddhi Shrivastava, and let me introduce you to my speaker for this session. We have Dr. Aruna Kalra, who is a renowned gynecologist, Meenal Khare, Head of Operations Sukhibhava Foundation that works with underprivileged communities across India, and Anju Kish, founder of UnTaboo, a sex education company. Dr. Kalra, I would like to ask you, is the menstruation blood really impure, and women during these days of the month, are they really dirty and impure?
Menstruation is very good, and in few communities we know that as soon as a girl starts menstruating, we know that she is fertile and her reproductive health is good. What is menstruation? Every month, uterus, the cavity of uterus is lined by endometrial cells. This is the lining which is prepared every month to receive a baby. Every month, nobody conceives, but yes, this is a preparation for a baby and the conception. But because every month nobody conceives, this shed off every month, this endometrial lining, it sheds off, which contains blood, which contains uterine lining, a little clots, some mucus, which is a very pure blood. And this mostly tells us that our reproductive health is good and it is not dirty. And I should tell you one more thing, that these cells are totipotent cells. These are stem cells, and these cells can convert into any type of organ structure. And nowadays we are saving stem cells for many diseases, for leukemias, for any other organ system diseases, and we can actually make a whole baby out of it. So these are those pure stem cells when we menstruate. So this one thing is for good reproductive health. Everybody is menstruating every month, and these cells are pure endometrial cells, and along with some blood clots and mucus cells, and these cells are not dirty, absolutely pure, absolutely very, very useful cells.
I may just add on to what Aruna said. I think, like she's very clearly said, that it's healthy if you have your periods and it's not dirty blood. So I think every time a girl has a period, the parents should actually be going on the terrace and saying, "Yay, my daughter is healthy and my daughter is not pregnant."
Like, I was reading a couple of articles, and back in time, people used to actually celebrate period, menstruation, but something down the line, now there is a lot of taboos that are associated with menstruation and period and everything. Even Zomato announced like a 10 days period leave. While a lot of people gave it a thumbs up, others were saying things like it would, decrease the employability of women. So, what is your stand on this?
Yes, there was a lot of debate around this. The women community were divided about it. I personally feel it's a great move, and I highly commend Zomato and the other companies who started this. As far as the fact that employability of women would be decreased because of this, I think if you take examples, I was reading up at that point of time, and I know that Japan and Korea have this since about 1947. And in spite of that menstrual leave policy, I think they have about 40% of women in the workforce. So I don't think it has increased the employability. And if we as women here in India are trying to say that let's not have this leave policy, we don't want any kind of leave because we have our menstruation, because we want to prove it. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to fit into. We have to change the system. And I think it's very, very important to understand that very fine line, that we are not here to prove that we are equal to men. It's our right. We just have to demand equality. And this is something which is biological. I mean, it's not fair to say that use your sick leave for a period pain.
Yeah.
And I'm sure not many women will misuse it. Anyways, any laws which are there are always misused to a certain extent. That does not mean that you do not create those laws. So I personally really, really commend this move.
Not all women, but some women actually experience a level of pain wherein they can't even move, they can't even do basic chores of their house. I would like to ask Dr. Kalra, why is it so that some girl experience a lot of pain and other just don't experience any pain at all?
Pain, mostly what we say, sometimes ovulatory cycles are painful. When you have ovulation in that cycle, those are painful cycles because hormones are a little different when you are not ovulating. So every girl has almost 70% cycles where which are ovulating. She is having healthy hormonal cycles. But girls who are not ovulating every month, like people who are having high BMI, who are little obese, who are not physically active, sometimes they are not ovulating every month and cycles are a little delayed. So if they are not ovulating, periods are painless. Other thing can cause, what other thing can cause pain is sometimes your mouth of the uterus cervix is really really tight. Sometimes endometrial lining, it sheds in whole, like the whole endometrium lining would want to come out in one go, because cervix is not all that dilated or open. That is why uterus starts having spasmodic contractions to expel the whole thing out. But if we shed in bits and pieces, this is not much painful. So, and again, it depends upon person to person. Prostaglandin hormones, which are secreted in some girls. They are much more than in other girls. Sometimes your uterus might be having some pathology, which is called polyp or fibroid, or somebody is suffering from endometriosis. So there are pathologies also. So we have to rule out whether it's physiological pain or whether it is pathological pain. If it is physiological pain, most of the pains are corrected by healthy lifestyle, by exercising. Even during periods, you should exercise and maintain a healthy weight. And if it is pathological, we should actually dig into the thing, where what exactly is the diagnosis, and we should treat that pathology.
Period poverty in India. A lot of girls who used to get, pads, etc., from their schools, they didn't get it during this lockdown situation. So, how much do you think it has impacted, hygiene, period hygiene of girls, and certain things?
A lot of girls in India, in fact 70% I believe, still use a cloth. uh, but I think even using a cloth does not mean that you cannot maintain hygiene. In fact, the world is going back to organic products, and there are cloth pads available which everybody is advocating now. It's great for the environment.
Yeah.
So I don't think that is the issue, that because pads are not available, hygiene was compromised. I think what the larger issue we have to look at is how do we break this taboo around the period shame? Because once that is broken, even the cloth that these girls use, they don't have to hide it and dry it behind their cupboards and dry, wet, damp places. Hide the cloth so that use dirty cloth so that they are prone to infections. I think the hygiene issues stem from that. Once that taboo is removed, even a cloth is, I think, a wonderful, product to use.
How do you think all these girls are struggling with maintaining their hygiene and not having access to pads?
Yeah, absolutely. When the lockdown happened, Sukhibhava conducted research on the ground, and we understood that the two main issues that were impacting these communities was that due to the lockdown, stigma in the household was heightened, extremely exacerbated, because women and girls were not able to leave the house. So how they were managing their periods before became thrice as difficult because they had no privacy anymore in the home. So stigma increased, finances became tight within a household, and access to healthcare services became far limited because things were getting diverted due to COVID services. So while there was difficulty in managing their hygiene at home, unable to access information or healthcare services during lockdowns, we found that when we spoke to women and girls in the community, they were struggling to access products for sure, as Anju mentioned. Access to products was difficult. However, women were using what they had at home, which was cloth. It was more the information that they weren't receiving around how to do this hygienically that was becoming a problem. And when we ran a helpline to understand how we could still support women even remotely, we received was 1/3 of calls was around how to manage irregular periods. We had another half the calls coming through around managing period pain, pregnancy complications. So it just showed that during the lockdown, access to information became so important for women and girls and people who menstruate to understand how to cope without access to these services. So this was one of the major impacts that we saw over the lockdown period when COVID hit communities.
I would like to ask to Dr. Kalra and Anju Kish, even modern women today, most of them have, they believe on these taboos, they believe on these notions that period blood is impure and they should not, go to the temple, go to the kitchen. Like I come across a lot of girls who are studying in big universities, but they still believe on such taboos related to menstruation. What do you have to say on this?
This menstrual taboo has survived for thousands of years in spite of all the social political changes which have happened within societies, but these taboos are still there. And I think one of the biggest cause of it is, of course, limited knowledge about periods, why they happen, how they happen. The biological information is not given. It's really sad that even as a biological information as basic as this is not provided in all the schools. This is something which should be provided. Of course, parents are themselves unaware, a majority of parents. So the information that they give to their daughters, the information that mothers pass on to their daughters is incomplete information. They pass on all the cultural taboos, but they don't pass on the right information. And these taboos have become so deeply ingrained in people's minds that it's very difficult to break away. Of course, probably, I'm sure there must have been some little bit of reasoning behind why they started. Besides the fact that, okay, they didn't understand the biological process, but also if you think about it, at that time of period of time, women had to do hard labor. They had to pull out water from the well, maybe walk miles to get that water or carry firewood. So this was a time when they could actually rest it out. Hygiene was probably not so great. So that's the reason they were advised not to come to the kitchen. But all those things don't apply in today's time. Of course, sure, we need our rest and we can take our rest if we want it, but without these taboos in place. So I think the crux of it is lack of knowledge even today. And I think that is what needs to change. And at UnTaboo, which is a sex education company, we strongly advocate this, that break those taboos, give out those education, and you'll see the change in society happening. Like you rightly said, even educated people have that.
Yeah. What do you have to say about the same, Dr. Kalra?
Let me add, you rightly said every word was right. And I would say that, as she said, that education is must. I get patients who are very well educated. They have all the information and knowledge about menstruation, but still when they come, they say that they want to delay their periods because of some religious occasion in their family. And I would say that religious occasion does not need periods to be delayed, because you're playing around with your periods, and next cycle or other cycles, consecutive cycles would be disturbed, and your fertility might get disturbed. So do not frequently take tablets to delay your periods just because you have to go to some temple or there is some puja at home. And these girls, how much ever you explain it to them, they have this in mind. And I would say that they blindly follow what their mothers are advocating. One thing is, like, we are really educated. We are maintaining hygiene properly. We are using menstrual cups, and we are going for swimming and every other activity which we were previously not able to do. And we know that exercising is good, everything we know, but still most of the time this religious thing comes into it, and our logic, our education, everything is we just keep it aside, and we just do not want to think about it.
I think more than the religious, Aruna, it is the fear that, okay, if I ignore this part of it and I go to the temple, something bad is going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And
In
that is
fact,
religion. I feel that okay, so that's totally different topic. Like, why are you fearing God when God, as the feminine God, were menstruating and they were fertile, and we should always know that this is a good thing. As I initially said, that menstrual blood contains stem cells. Stem cells are, they can create a human being without the help of a male sperm. So if they have this capacity that they can turn into any organ system, they can treat your leukemias, your blood cancer, your many other diseases as a stem cell. So what else? Like, this is the heavenly thing which you are having, menstrual bleeding. So we should respect it, and for whatever reason, we should not uh, think that it is bad, and we should not delay it for whatever reason, marriage or whether you have some function or whatever it is. So I think education is definitely must, which is, even educated people have this thing, they are not ready to accept
but I
sometimes.
also see things are changing. Like we have workshops for young girls, and the parents, of course, attend those too. And I keep telling the parents, they want that, they say that we cannot change because it's been ingrained so deeply into us, but we don't want to pass it on to our daughters. And I think that is a change we have been seeing. So that is a great thing. In fact, I always tell the parents that the day your daughter gets a period, take her to the place of worship, whichever God you believe in, take her to a place of worship and just say a thank you to God, that thank you, God, I'm healthy and I've got my periods. That way you would have, broken that chain right on day one of a periods and created a lifelong of positivity around periods. That is what is important. We need to create that positivity around periods. And
And
if those people feel that, if we believe that God has created us, then it's a process which God has created himself or herself.
A conversation you were mentioning about breaking that cycle between mother and daughter is something we've seen time and time again in the marginalized communities, where you might see some resistance from the elderly grandparent, then the mother comes in and is slightly more open to trying a different product or learning something more about the biology. And then the daughter comes along and she's even more open in understanding what is happening to her body, believing that this blood is not impure. And then little by little, you see generationally the mindset begin to shift. But one of the things I think that has been most incredible that we've seen is that there is a willingness where the father also wants to play a role in supporting his family. And specifically, the work we've been doing has been trying to include the men in the household in this conversation to normalize periods within the household. Because when he can support his daughter and he can support his wife, it's the most powerful thing to see that change come about, where they can say, you know, I have my period right now, but I need this product and I can go to school. And suddenly it just changes the entire conversation and the future of that child, right?
So true, Meenal. Absolutely true. In fact, not just the fathers, I believe, and we do that in our work, that we talk to the boys about periods, because
Yeah.
the gender sensitization has to begin from there. The change will come from there. Seeing a girl in school probably with a stain on her skirt,
Yeah.
there should be a helpful hand being extended there and not being teased about it. The shame will stop when that happens.
Should the boys be taught about menstruation and how the kind of sex education we have in our country right now? Do you think if it's enough, and like how it can be made much better, so that the taboos can be removed? Even not just girls, even boys can have better knowledge about menstruation and how to deal with such situation where their friends, their sisters, or anybody else around them, they can help them in a better way.
I strongly feel starts at birth and continues lifelong, because it's a very vast topic. It's not just limited to talking about periods. It's about puberty, it's about your reproductive health, it's about consent, responsibility, safety. A large part of sex education is about safety and gender sensitization. So there are tons of topics, and it really, really begins very early on when you start talking to a little child about their body, the right names for their genitals, the safe touch, unsafe touch. So there's lots of things. As far as periods go and menstruation goes, I think there is no age. I mean, even if you talk to a 4-year-old, I feel there's nothing wrong in it, because it depends on the language you use to explain to that child what is happening. It can be as simple as, even if a 5-year-old asks you, what are these pads for, which usually kids do because they're watching those ads on television. It could be as simple as saying that, woman goes through something where every woman has a baby bag inside her. That baby bag needs cleaning. And every month, the baby bag is clean and she needs this pad to soak up what is coming out of her body. It could be as simple as that. You've not given them any sexual information. You've not given them any over information, but you've created a base to add on to as they grow older.
Tell us about how many men do actually participate in such conversations.
We have built out an entire intervention for men and adolescent boys to engage them in this conversation and enable those conversations in communities and in schools. So we've found at least 10,000 participants in our program so far in Bangalore and Bhopal, and we're now looking in rural communities as well, where we'll continue to engage men and boys in the conversation, because as we've rightly been saying, like, until everybody can normalize this biological process, there will be no progress. So we have found great engagement, and there really is no age. I completely agree that there is no right age, but it's about having the conversation with both genders, both sexes, and saying, this is completely normal. Let's acknowledge it and be open about what this means. And you'll be surprised that boys are actually very curious and men are very curious about their own reproductive health. So when you can address their own stigmas and their own taboos, because they also experience this, they're far more open and willing to supporting the women and girls in their life as well, and people who menstruate. So I think overall, just having more open conversations and having far more credible education about these taboo topics is the first step to reducing a lot of this stigma and having everybody create a supportive environment in these communities.
And you see how wonderful the change happens within a family, and the close bond which happens when you talk to boys about it. We've had this incident where this mother told us about this boy who'd attended our workshop, and he was told, and we were giving out these period calendars to the girls. And this boy said, can I have one too? I want to keep one for my mom. And he put it in his house, and he would tell his mom to tell him when he had his period so he could mark her dates. And next month he would remind her, Mom, it's about 5 days away from your periods. I can understand that probably you'll become a little moody now. I'm going to be a good boy and support you. So I thought that's so wonderful, right? That you can have those conversations, you can bond with your mom, you can understand what she might go through when this is happening.
So about mood swings, Dr. Kalra, like every girl do every girl experience such mood swing? Is it like a biological thing, or is it just that it has become like a internet thing that nowadays everyone is talking about? The girl is angry, and are you close to your periods? Are you having your periods? You're having your mood swings? Is it so?
Okay, so miss or as we are teased that are you PMSing? No, it is not everybody who experiences PMS symptoms. Mostly PMS symptoms are you might have a little heavy breasts, you would have a little irritability, headache, you won't be able to sleep. There might be a little cramp in your lower abdomen, back, or leg cramps. Uh, all those symptoms are considered to be high progesterone level can cause all these symptoms. So high progesterone can give you water retention, and water retention can cause salt retention, and that is how you start developing all these bloating side effects of PMS. But no, not all girls get PMS. Many girls do not get any symptoms at all of breast tenderness or moodiness or headache or anything. A little crampy pain sometimes, yes. It can. There is a spectrum. Some people will get a little crampy pain in lower abdomen a day before periods, or it can go to these right of the spectrum. All the symptoms: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, everything. But yes, I would say very less percentage of girls experience these kind of very severe PMS symptoms. And I think we should not be teased about it, because one thing is we know that these PMS symptoms can be corrected again by keeping ourselves healthy, by eating all the vegetable fruits, drinking lots of soups, smoothies, water, exercising during periods, before periods, and keeping a routine also. as we were doing before, like we should not break our routine. uh, Taking analgesic drugs are absolutely safe. You can take analgesic drugs every 8 hours if you are having headache, or any other medication prescribed by your doctor you can take. So you should not deprive of yourself from routine day-to-day activities or analgesic drugs, because again, this is a taboo that if you take any drugs it would harm your periods. So it's not like that. You please make yourself comfortable, take drugs, or do everything to correct your PMS. We prescribe vitamin E capsules, we prescribe evening primrose oil capsules, we prescribe vitamin B6 capsules to correct your PMS symptoms. And if you take all these vitamins daily for say a month or 2 or 3, your symptoms, if you are having high symptoms of PMS, they would reduce to a minimum. So I would say yes, not everybody gets, but whoever gets can get help also. And you should take all these prescribed medicine if you are having too much PMS symptoms.
Simriti, I think even this PMS, jokes about PMS are very sexist. And like Dr. Aruna said, that everybody experiences different kinds of PMS. Even boys experience mood swings. So it's every human experiences mood swings, but calling a girl's mood swings a PMS every time is very sexist and should be called out. I see a lot of girls themselves laughing about this joke on PMS, which I don't think they should.
Thank you so much for enlightening us about menstruation and talking to us about taboos and how can we get rid of these taboos in India. We will keep discussing about more such women issues on HerZindagi. Stay tuned with us for more. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. It was
Thank
really
you.
nice talking.
Thank you, Sam.